The psychology behind why everyone loves Taylor Swift's music is a fascinating journey into the human psyche, the power of storytelling, and the deep connection between artist and audience. To understand this phenomenon, you and I need to dive into the layers that make her artistry not just successful but a cultural force unlike anything else. From her lyrical genius to her ability to tap into universal emotions, Taylor Swift has mastered the art of making people feel seen and understood. But what's really happening here? Why do so many people, across generations and cultures, find themselves drawn to her music, almost as if it speaks directly to their soul? Let's start with something crucial: relatability. At the heart of Taylor Swift's music is her uncanny ability to write songs that feel personal yet universal. Think about it when you hear a lyric like "You call me up again just to break me like a promise." From All Too Well, it doesn't just describe a situation, it evokes a feeling so raw, so specific, that it feels like she's been reading your diary. This is no coincidence. Taylor herself has said, "I think the most important thing about songwriting is that it has to be authentic to you, but it also has to be something that other people can relate to." This duality, writing for herself while simultaneously writing for you, is one of the reasons her music resonates so deeply. It's a psychological phenomenon known as personalization, where the listener projects their own life onto the artist's story. But why does this work so well? Humans are wired for connection, and one of the most powerful ways we connect is through shared experiences. When you hear Taylor sing about heartbreak, self-discovery, or the thrill of falling in love, your brain releases oxytocin, the same chemical that fosters trust and bonding. It's almost as if her music creates a bridge between her and her listeners, making you feel less alone in your emotions. This is amplified by her storytelling style, which is rich in sensory details and emotional depth. For example, in All Too Well 10-minute version, she sings, "You kept me like a secret, but I kept you like an oath." The imagery here is vivid, and it taps into something primal, the universal desire to be valued and cherished. You feel it because she felt it, and this mutual vulnerability creates a powerful emotional connection. Now, let's talk about the psychology of nostalgia and how it plays into why we love her music. Nostalgia is a bittersweet longing for the past, and it's a feeling that Taylor Swift has mastered evoking. Songs like "You Belong with Maine" or "Enchanted" transport you to a time when love felt innocent and new, or when heartbreak was the end of the world. Even if you didn't grow up listening to her, there's something in her music that taps into your own memories and experiences. Taylor has said, "I love the idea of taking a memory and turning it into something beautiful. This isn't just poetic, it's psychological." Research shows that nostalgia can make people feel more optimistic about the future because it reminds them of moments when life felt meaningful. By weaving nostalgia into her music, Taylor creates a sense of timelessness that keeps people coming back to her songs, even years after they were first released. Another key factor is her adaptability. Taylor Swift has reinvented herself multiple times, moving from country to pop to indie folk, without ever losing her core identity. This is a rare skill, and it speaks to her deep understanding of human psychology. People crave novelty, but they also need consistency. It's a delicate balance, and Taylor manages it perfectly. Each album feels like a new chapter in her life, and by extension in yours. She invites you to grow with her, to evolve alongside her, and this creates a sense of loyalty that goes beyond fandom. As she once said, "I want to be known for the things that are constants in my work: storytelling, melody, and an emotional connection to the listener." This consistency amidst change is what keeps her music feeling fresh, while still being undeniably Taylor Swift. Her ability to create a parasocial relationship with her fans is another psychological hook. A parasocial relationship is a one-sided bond where a person feels deeply connected to someone they've never met, like a celebrity or an artist. Taylor nurtures this connection by being incredibly open about her life and emotions, both in her music and in her interactions with fans. She once said, "I think as a songwriter, you have to be vulnerable and you have to be willing to share parts of your life that maybe you wouldn't share in a conversation." This vulnerability makes her seem approachable, almost like a friend, and it deepens the emotional bond her fans feel with her. When she writes about her struggles and triumphs, it feels like she's sharing them with you, not just the world. Then there's the element of empowerment. Many of Taylor's songs, especially in her later albums, have themes of self-discovery, resilience, and personal growth. Tracks like Shake It Off or The Man encourage listeners to stand up for themselves and embrace their individuality. This empowerment resonates deeply, especially in a world where people often feel pressured to conform or silence their voices. Taylor has said, "You are not the opinion of someone who doesn't know you," and this message of self-worth is woven into much of her music. It's a reminder that you're not alone in your struggles and that you have the strength to overcome them. Finally, let's not overlook the sheer craftsmanship of her music. Taylor is a master of melody and structure, and her songs are designed to be memorable. The way she uses repetition, hooks, and dynamic shifts keeps her music engaging and addictive. But it's not just about the technicalities, it's about how those technicalities serve the emotions of the song. When you listen to a Taylor Swift track, you're not just hearing music, you're experiencing a story, a moment, a piece of her soul. And because of this, her songs stay with you long after the music stops. Let's dig even deeper into the psychology of why Taylor Swift's music resonates so profoundly with people. If we've already established that her relatability, nostalgia, adaptability, and empowerment are key factors, there's another level that takes her music from being simply beloved to being iconic. That level is how she creates a sense of community and collective identity through her art. Taylor Swift doesn't just write songs, she builds worlds. And within those worlds, people find their own stories, their own belonging, and their own meaning. Think about the concept of the Swiftie fandom. It's not just a group of people who enjoy her music, it's a community that shares an emotional bond, not just with Taylor but with each other. Psychologically, this ties into the human need for belonging. In an increasingly disconnected world, where technology often replaces genuine connection, something as simple as a shared love for Taylor Swift's music can create profound social bonds. People come together to decode her Easter eggs, to share their favorite lyrics, to attend her concerts, and to celebrate her successes as if they were their own. This isn't accidental. Taylor has said, "My fans are the longest and best relationship I've ever had," and she treats them accordingly. She fosters this sense of belonging by engaging directly with her audience, whether it's through social media, surprise meet and greets, or even sending handwritten notes to fans. This inclusivity makes people feel seen and valued, which is a powerful psychological motivator. But how does this tie back to her music? The answer lies in the way her songs create a sense of shared experience. When you listen to a Taylor Swift track, you're not just hearing her story, you're hearing our story. Take, for example, a song like "We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together." On the surface, it's a breakup anthem, but it's also a rallying cry for anyone who's ever felt fed up with toxic relationships. The repetition of "we" in the chorus isn't just catchy, it's communal. It's a subtle way of saying, this isn't just my experience, it's ours. This linguistic choice creates a sense of unity among listeners, making them feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. This sense of community extends to the way Taylor involves her fans in her creative process. From dropping cryptic hints about her album releases to hiding Easter eggs in her music videos, She turns her artistry into a collaborative experience. Fans feel like they're part of the journey, not just passive observers. This taps into the psychological principle of participatory culture, where people feel a deeper connection to something when they're actively engaged in it. By making her fans co-creators in her narrative, Taylor deepens their emotional investment in her music. Another layer to this phenomenon is her authenticity. In a world where celebrity culture often feels manufactured and contrived, Taylor stands out for her genuineness. She doesn't shy away from showing her imperfections, her vulnerabilities, and her growth. Whether it's addressing past mistakes in songs like The Archer or reclaiming her narrative in Look What You Made Me Do, Taylor invites you into her world, flaws and all. This authenticity is psychologically disarming. It makes you trust her, and trust is the foundation of any deep emotional connection. As she once said, "I really like to know that I'm connecting with people, and I like to feel like my life is an open book." This openness isn't just endearing, it's empowering. It gives listeners permission to embrace their own imperfections and to see themselves in her journey. Now, let's talk about the role of emotional catharsis in her music. One of the reasons people are drawn to art is because it allows them to process complex emotions in a safe and controlled way. Taylor Swift is a master of creating songs that act as emotional release valves. Whether it's the anger of I Knew You Were Trouble, the heartbreak of All Too Well, or the joy of You Belong With Me, her music provides a space for listeners to feel their feelings without judgment. This is incredibly therapeutic. Psychologists call this concept emotional resonance. When a piece of art mirrors your own emotions, it validates your experience and helps you process it. Taylor's ability to capture the full spectrum of human emotion makes her music a form of emotional self-care for her listeners. What's even more fascinating is how she balances specificity with universality. Her lyrics are often deeply personal, filled with details that are uniquely hers: scarves, old pickup trucks, and secret glances. And yet, these details don't alienate listeners, they draw them in. Why? Because humans are wired to find meaning in stories. When Taylor shares a specific memory, like dancing in the refrigerator light in All Too Well, your brain doesn't just process it as her story, it translates it into your own. You might not have danced in the refrigerator light, but you've had moments of intimacy and joy that feel just as poignant. This is the power of storytelling. It allows us to see ourselves in someone else's narrative, creating a sense of shared humanity. Let's also explore her use of contrast and duality in her music. Taylor often juxtaposes light and dark, hope and despair, love and loss. This mirrors the complexity of real life, where emotions are rarely straightforward. For instance, in Daylight she sings, "I once believed love would be burning red, but it's golden, like daylight here." She's reflecting on how her perception of love has evolved, capturing both the intensity of youthful passion and the calm wisdom of maturity. This duality resonates because it reflects the human experience. We aren't just one thing, we're a mosaic of contradictions, and Taylor's music honors that complexity. Finally, there's the element of surprise. Taylor Swift is a master of subverting expectations, whether it's dropping an unannounced album like Folklore or reimagining her past with her re-recorded albums. This unpredictability keeps people engaged, but it also taps into a deeper psychological need for novelty. Studies show that the brain releases dopamine, a feel-good chemical, when we encounter something unexpected but pleasurable. Taylor's ability to surprise and delight her audience keeps her music exciting and fresh, even after more than a decade in the industry. Let's now explore the deeper emotional and cultural underpinnings behind why everyone seems to love Taylor Swift's music. At this point, we've examined her relatability, storytelling, sense of community, and even the psychological catharsis her music provides. But there's a more profound layer to her success, one that goes beyond the music itself and taps into the human need for meaning, identity, and connection. Taylor Swift doesn't just make music, she creates a narrative ecosystem where her listeners feel like active participants in a larger story, one that reflects their own lives, struggles, and desires. One of the key reasons Taylor Swift's music endures is because of her ability to mirror the human condition. Her songs are both deeply personal and universally resonant. This is no small feat. It's a delicate balance that requires not just artistic skill, but also emotional intelligence. Taylor once said, "People haven't always been there for me, but music always has." That sentiment is deeply relatable because, for many of us, music serves as a companion during life's most significant moments, whether it's heartbreak, joy, confusion, or triumph. Through her vulnerability, Taylor creates a space where listeners feel validated in their own experiences. Her music becomes a mirror, reflecting back not just her story but ours as well. To understand this, let's look at the psychological concept of emotional contagion. Emotional contagion is the phenomenon where we catch emotions from others. When Taylor sings with raw emotion, whether it's the excruciating heartbreak in All Too Well or the euphoric self-assurance in Shake It Off, we feel it. Her emotional authenticity is contagious, and it allows listeners to experience those emotions vicariously. This is why her fans describe her concerts as cathartic experiences. It's not just about hearing live music, it's about feeling something deeply and collectively with thousands of other people who are on the same emotional wavelength. Psychologically, this shared emotional experience fosters a sense of connection and belonging, which is one of the most fundamental human needs. But Taylor's emotional impact goes beyond individual songs. She has an unparalleled ability to craft entire eras that encapsulate specific moods, themes, and aesthetics. Each album feels like a world unto itself, with its own color palette, emotional tone, and narrative arc. For example, 1989 is a sparkling celebration of reinvention and independence, while Folklore and Evermore are introspective journeys into storytelling and self-reflection. This intentionality creates a sense of continuity and progression in her career, making listeners feel like they are growing alongside her. As Taylor has said, "I want my life to be a story that fans can follow." This serial storytelling approach taps into the psychological principle of narrative transportation, where people become so engrossed in a story that they feel as though they are living within it. By creating these immersive eras, Taylor doesn't just release albums, she invites listeners into a shared journey. This brings us to another profound psychological principle: symbolic immortality. Symbolic immortality refers to the human desire to leave a lasting legacy, to feel that our lives have meaning beyond our physical existence. Taylor taps into this by creating music that feels timeless and deeply personal. Her re-recording of her early albums, for instance, is not just an act of reclaiming her work, it's a way of preserving her legacy while giving fans the chance to relive the memories tied to those songs. When you hear Love Story Taylor's version or Red Taylor's version, it's not just about the music, it's about revisiting a part of your own life. This act of revisiting and reinterpreting her work makes her music feel eternal, as if it's woven into the fabric of her fans' lives. As she herself has said, "Music is my way of connecting with people, and it's the way I tell stories to the world through her music." Taylor achieves a form of symbolic immortality, not just for herself but for her fans as well. Another fascinating element of Taylor's appeal is her ability to navigate and challenge societal norms. In songs like The Man, she critiques the double standards faced by women in the music industry and beyond. This isn't just empowering, it's deeply validating for listeners who have experienced similar struggles. Taylor's willingness to address these issues head-on makes her music feel relevant and socially conscious, adding another layer of depth to her artistry. As she once said, "I want to wear pink and tell you how I feel about politics." I don't think those things have to cancel each other out, this duality being both unapologetically feminine and fiercely outspoken resonates with listeners who feel similarly multifaceted. It's a reminder that you don't have to fit into a single mold and that your voice matters no matter who you are. Culturally, Taylor Swift's music also taps into what psychologists call temporal self-comparison. This is the process of comparing your current self to your past self in order to measure growth and change. Taylor's music often serves as a soundtrack to her fans' lives, marking specific moments and milestones. When fans listen to an old Taylor Swift song, they're not just revisiting her past, they're revisiting their own. This creates a powerful emotional connection as her music becomes a vessel for self-reflection and nostalgia. It's not just about where Taylor was when she wrote the song, it's about where you were when you first heard it. This layering of personal and collective memory makes her music feel deeply intertwined with her listeners' lives. Finally, let's touch on the sheer craftsmanship of her songwriting. Taylor Swift is a master of what psychologists call cognitive fluency, which is the ease with which information is processed. Her lyrics are intricate enough to feel meaningful, but simple enough to be instantly memorable. Take a line like, "You made a rebel of a careless man's careful daughter from mine." It's poetic, evocative, and easy to understand all at the same time. This balance of complexity and simplicity makes her music accessible while still feeling profound. It's a rare skill, and it's one of the reasons her songs stay with you long after you've heard them. Ultimately, the psychology of why everyone loves Taylor Swift's music comes down to this: she makes people feel. Whether it's joy, heartbreak, empowerment, or nostalgia, her music taps into the deepest parts of the human experience. She reminds us that our emotions are valid, our stories are worth telling, and that even in our most vulnerable moments, we are not alone. As Taylor herself has said, "I hope that when people listen to my music, they feel less alone, because that's how I feel when I listen to my favorite songs." Her music is not just entertainment, it's a lifeline, a companion, and a mirror. And that's why people love it. It's not just her voice or her melodies, it's the way she makes you feel like she understands you, like she's been where you are, and like she's walking alongside you on your journey. And in the end, isn't that what we all want? To feel understood, to feel connected, and to feel like our stories matter.